Welcome back, everybody. David, XRPLION. It is Saturday, August 9th, 2025, and we have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot to be excited about. We have a lot to be happy about, and it all happened yesterday. Today, we're going to cover the final resolution between the SEC and Ripple and all that nonsense. Remember, it's all a narrative. It's a protective narrative, guarding and keeping the world's best kept secret away from the old, nefarious Rothschild banksters, Barr, legal, crown, false, fractionalized fiat currency system, which is no more. It's done. It's turned off. And we've got some really exciting things to cover. First thing I want to bring up, we have a new chairman for the IRS, Steve Besrent, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, excuse me for not pronouncing that as it should be. 6 former heads of the IRS are gone, taken out, stepped down, walked away, ran, tried to hide. But as I pointed out when I first came here April 3rd, 2021, why was I here? The Lord brought me to be his personal messenger to deliver a message to everybody on Twitter. Okay, that's where I play. That's my playground. That's where the Lord wanted me to post his revelation, not how I interpreted it, but exactly how he delivered it to me. And what did he tell me in the very beginning? We were witnessing the largest and most extensive sting operation in the entire world, globally, everywhere. What was the plan? The plan was to remove evil from the face of the earth, to eradicate it. Why? Because God had already created a brand new financial system that we were to use. It was created 588 million years ago, give or take a day or two. It was created before time began. God knew exactly what we would need. So it was created out of time, and it was given to us in time, just in time, to save our world, to save our economic system, to free the captives, those called by his name, and to provide restoration, reparation, restitution, and redemption, the 4 R's, all taking place through the Redemption Center. That's another story. We'll see if we can pick that up a little bit later in our show today. Let's come back. Let's swing back around to Ripple, the lawsuit. I've said from day one, it was a narrative created by the Alliance, the Global Alliance, Space Force, who have been working with President Trump to root out all evil. Now, most of you probably aren't aware, but I'm going to believe, and I do, I'm not saying that just to take up space. I believe that the people that God has had tuned in to follow, to get his word, his revelation, his message, are some of the most up-to-date and well-read people on the plan that's taking place. Everything from the grand jury investigations, the indictments, sealed indictments. Remember, a sealed indictment can have up to 99 people represented in that one sealed indictment. It isn't just one person. So when we hear information about there being 500,000 sealed indictments, that means it can be up to 99 per. So if you just take 5 per, that's 2.5 billion people. Whew, That's a lot of people. No, that's not billion. Come on, Dave. You know the math. 2.5 times 500,000. It's about 1.5 million. And I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired right now. I've been going nonstop for months, going on 20 weeks now, just pushing the pedal to the metal to get all this revelation and all this understanding about the QFS. XRP. What's the narrative through this whole SORA, strategically orchestrated reality awareness war? Because we've been in a war and it's been a fight. They've not wanted to go down peacefully, and they've been taking them out every single day. And these orders that are given to those that are part of the groups that are rounding them up, they have orders to terminate, because that's the end game. They're terminated. So if they're not terminated by Global Alliance, Space Force, they're terminated in the rapture, in the cleanse, the final purge. Hold it all loosely. Don't try to use your Bible doctrine, because there's many things missing, many things were falsified, many things weren't made known. But just know, he's been in 100% control since before time began. He has already prepared everything. You've heard me say this more than 100 times. For each and every one of you, he has already laid up in heaven, meaning he has already prepared it. Everything that you will need in your life, period. He didn't leave one thing out. So stand on that. You can stand on that. You see me throwing a whole lot of bits and pieces of information coming out. He's revealed the Bible code. It's been phenomenal to see it all come together. And it pertains to Ripple. It pertains to many, many different things. And there's what I have termed the open market mirage. What you think you see, what people think they see, isn't real. And either they are still suffering from Stockholm syndrome, or they lack the tools to figure things out, to do the research. So they're just blindly following people that they think are making money, and they're not. They're just scamming them. They're getting paid. See, they don't need to go and try to make money in the markets when they're getting paid to push a narrative, whether it's Bitcoin or XRP is for cross-border payments. And I want to break some of this stuff down. I put together several training programs. I call them the master's programs, PhD programs, to give you the education that you need that other people just don't have. And this comes from my literally 16 hours a day with the Lord, just leaning into him. And he just directs my path, what he wants me to work on. And we'll get started on something and he'll have me put it down, and it'll come back later when we come full circle. But again, I want to talk about this SEC Ripple lawsuit. Okay. There's a lot of players. Brad Garlinghouse got notified on December 20th or December 21st, 2020 by Jay Clayton. Gets a phone call. Hey, Brad, this is Jay over at SEC. Just wanted to let you know that tomorrow we're going to be filing a lawsuit. Now, you know what it's all about. Trump's already read you in months ahead. You know it's a protective order, just like going into witness protection, because we have to fend off evil. And it's going to take a little bit of time. So don't worry about it. And it's exactly what he did. He was so cool. It's like I told Jimmy Valley when I was helping him with the pricing model for XRP. I said, man, that Brad Garlinghouse, he is just too cool for school. He is so relaxed. Why? Because he knew the end game. He had already signed all the NDAs. So it was just a matter of them continuing to do what they're doing and providing the terminology so people would think that they were still connected to the old system with the BlackRocks and the JP Morgans and things like that to buy time. That's all it was. It was to buy time until Jasara and Nasara was ready, and they ran into some delays, obstacles. But they used those executive orders, 13818, 13848, 13959, and they seized all the nefarious property, assets, gold, silver, platinum, dollars, euros, yen, you name it. They got it all. And then with the gatekeeper protocols from the private ledger, you've heard me talk about the private ledger. Okay, there was a ledger system that began to run as early as 2009, and it was already tied into all the financial markets in the world. So it was like running in the background, and nobody really knew it. It operates in the fifth dimension. And what did they do with it? They used it to go back into the 1700s and record every single banking transaction going all the way back and just traced everything. The system has a quantum consciousness. And I don't want to wig some of you people out, but it's divine. It's from a higher realm. You've heard me talk about the book of record and the book of life, where everything is recorded. That's the XRP ledger, people. Everything is reported, recorded, and stored. It has infinite capacity. You can't fill it. We'll never fill it, even with 100 quadrillion transactions per second, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Can you tell I'm excited? That's been my world. I don't care about anything else. I don't care about these other meme coins or this or that, or the stock market, because the alliance is controlling the stock market. BlackRock gone, Vanguard gone. But see, here's what's happened. If you really stop and pay attention and put it down, and I got some information in here I think all of you are going to really enjoy. And again, we're going to kind of branch out in a couple of other areas just to give you that foundation, right? Because you're just going to you're listening right now. You're not writing notes, okay? You're absorbing this conversation, this information. You can go back and take notes later, okay? The important thing is you have the big picture understanding. So when you hear the talking heads and the other paid influencers talking about CBDCs and how XRP was designed for cross-border payments, you can just go, baloney. I'm not buying that anymore because it's not the real narrative. It's not the truth. So if you're not putting out the truth, watch out. You got issues to deal with at the Redemption Center. And I've talked about that. The scanning was already done. It was 8 years of scanning from June 11th, 2017 to June 11th, 2025. We were all scanned when we didn't know it, right? You can't scan people when they know they're being scanned to determine if they're in alignment with a divine and holy system so God could fulfill his promise to all of us. No, it's done. We're just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Trump's already officially started Nasara. He started Jasara. Every single day, he's doing one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. No more income tax, no capital gains, nothing. Retirement accounts are mirrored onto the QFS, where they have already established a quantum access account for you. You do nothing. It's already done. You will claim ownership when you go to the Redemption Center if you are so fortunate to get the invitation. Upwards of 50% of the people out there are not going to get an invitation. Paid influencers who knew the truth and decided to take the money over delivering the truth. Why? Because they weren't required to protect the knowledge of XRP. Why? Because they didn't have it. They didn't know. The people like Brad Garlinghouse, David Schwartz, everybody over at Ripple that is in the know, which is probably about 4 people. Stuart Alderati, okay? They're given grace to say what they say because they have to keep things moving along and they have to keep the community busy, distracted by coming out with one more thing. ETFs, automated market makers, all the stuff's bombed. It's like a one-hit wonder and nobody else ever brings it up again. You notice that? It's like, no, you're just waiting for the next thing to be announced so the paid influencers can start talking about, oh, this is going to pump. God is so tired of that line. And I'm not going to call out the person who uses it. But again, be smart, people. You are dealing with your creator, the entity, the one and only most high, the universal one, the creator of all things. So you either decide to go with his truth or you turn your back and you pay the consequences. I would rather you lean towards him and want to find out every single bit of his truth and tell these people that want to pay you, that want to buy your soul, your spirit, take a hike. I'm not for sale anymore. We're at that time now, right? I told you we were in a 7-week, 49-day window that started on August 1st, August 8th. So we had a bunch of events that happened on August 1st, and it's the prophetic timeline. And I expected many, many things to happen on the 8th. Well, look what happened. And you'll see this fit into the prior established timeline of events taking place within this camouflage, this distraction, okay? Do we have any proof that they actually paid this stuff? No, they just say they did. But there's no need to pay it because this was brought prior to the handoff. That's why they kept kicking the can down the road, kicking the can down the road. We're no longer in that system, that bar, crown, false legal system. We're in a 4-door, divine, lawful system now, coming from heaven. So I'm swinging back around, and that's called private. The bar, crown is false. It's a false system. So you either have a false system that's public, or you have the private system, which is divine. We're operating in the private system. We always have. We just didn't know it. But I'm telling you, that's where we're at right now. Dot the I's, cross the T's. I don't believe we're going to see a final rate for the dinar, the dong, the bolivar. And they want to create more confusion for the ZIM bond. But if you go back and watch the videos I've done, you'll be well informed. You'll know. And what you'll see is there's other third parties that are reporting on the ZIM bond, and they're being told not to present the truth. Okay? If you have the right paperwork completed and you're established as a humanitarian and you have a ZIM bond and it's subject to the structured payout, you're going to select the 100 years. You're going to select, I think they've already selected for everybody. It's annual because that's what I shared with everybody. Take the annual. You're going to get 1 year of, or 1/100th of the payout now, right up front. But see, they're confusing it by bringing in this interest rate, 10%. You get this, you get that. No, it's not like that. That's just reiterating the confusion that's gone back for almost 10 years now. No, you're not paid an interest rate. Money on the QFS does not earn interest. Okay, the money is going to be held by the Space Alliance, the Global Alliance. It's still yours. It goes into your primary account. You're going to get 1/100th of that per year. And that's what goes into your secondary account that you actually have access to use for your humanitarian project or projects. And if what they're saying is true, and I believe they're watering it down, that the first two are at face value, 1-to-1, and the next 28 only pay $25 million. This is the $100 trillion ZIM bond. So if that's the case, the first two are $100 trillion apiece, and the remainder that you end up with, by the time you do the multiplication, you have 200 trillion, 750 billion. That's enough to run your humanitarian project for the next 100 years and be a great steward, right? Because we're supposed to be great stewards. So Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz and Stuart Alderati, they've been great stewards with regards to what's going on with Ripple, a separate company from the XRP ledger and XRP. You saw the 36-page report I put out about XRP and the ledger and each person's role. David Schwartz, Jed McCaleb, Arthur Brito. Okay, it's all quantum. It's all about quantum. It was about protection so that evil could not get into the system to damage it, because they tried, but they're not taking out the guardians of heaven. They're not taking out legions of angels. They had a role to play, and then they have kind of a slapstick comedy role right now, keeping everybody confused. Now, I'm sure you saw David Schwartz's picture from just yesterday, and I did the decode on that. He's standing there with that shirt with the zeros on it. He's got the gold cap over his head, and it's all to identify the fact that XRP has already been given a $1 million valuation as the digital collateral for the XRPL. It doesn't convert anybody's money. The gatekeeper AI manages the entire system with XRP. XRP is the one that, it's like they're the bondsman. They make sure that there is enough liquidity to handle the transaction for both parties. And remember, this is done instantaneously. The smallest transaction is $1. That's why there's 1 million drops per XRP. You're not going to put something for 42 cents on your quantum debit card. You're going to have money in your pocket to take care of that stuff. But it's already worked out. Why? Because the US has always been about the dollar. The dollar. And $1 here, when the EBS goes off, is $1 in any other country in the world. 209 nations pegged 1-to-1. So my ruble, 1 ruble is $1. Whether I call it $1 or I call it a ruble or I call it a yen, it doesn't matter. In accounting, 1 is 1. Doesn't matter the name. And that's what was so crucial in getting this whole system taken care of. Then, of course, the 10 to the 650th power in the appreciated value for gold. It's already been assayed, blockchain identified, and certified. They have more gold already under wraps to take care of everything for the next 450 years. But I want to make sure everybody understands Ripple isn't in bed with any of these other nefarious companies. Its job is to take care of the global financial arena going forward, where it's all about purity of heart. It's about honesty. It's about humanity. It's about the children. So don't buy into this fake crap about ETFs. There isn't going to be a stock market. We don't need it. Okay? We don't need it. There'll be plenty of jobs out there for people that want to work, and they'll get paid very well if they work. If you don't work, you won't get paid. The system will take you out. The gatekeeper AI. So imagine having this, we're seeing all this advancement in AI, right? That's already done through the gatekeeper AI on the XRPL. It's an entire functioning back office. It does everything. Don't need to hire accountants. Just have to take care of the small stuff about getting payroll and things like this established through the right protocols onto the system, and it'll do the rest. And if it starts to notice somebody isn't doing what they're supposed to do, it'll flag them. It won't pay them. You won't lose money. So we're being relieved of that burden of having to make a lot of these decisions. It will make these decisions for us. It will do the groundwork. It will make sure that somebody is who they say they are, because it reads their intention already when they step up. And I just smile when I, see the little things that pop up about now being able to pay people by the day, by the hour, by the minute, by the second. There will be no waiting to be compensated. And in fact, there's even, I don't know if I should say this or not. The system has a program that looks at everybody that's in the system. Humanitarians, people that are working for other people, etc. Remember when Elon came out and sent that email that said, "Hey guys, send us a response back telling us 5 things you did this week." And people just went ballistic. Well, he was identifying what happens on the XRPL. The same thing will happen. So if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you won't get paid, right? But it has a reward system built in. So if you're doing exceedingly abundantly above what you're asked to do in your job, you could be recognized for that. And they already have an established fund that pays out these rewards. I call it God's dividend, his holy dividend. Trump talks about a dividend. Where do you think he's getting it from? It's not a dividend in the sense that you're earning money holding something. You can't hold XRP. And as much as those people out there that want to just believe that, you got to let it go. And I'm going to tell you why. Who created it? It wasn't David Schwartz. It wasn't Arthur Brito. It wasn't Jed McCaleb. It came from the Father himself. It's technology. It was used in a prior civilization to help get them through hard times. And they only used it for a little over 20 years, and then they didn't need currency anymore. And we'll run into that benefit too. We'll have replicators. You'll be able to create what you imagine because we won't be stuck. And that's all part of the awakening and what we're going to come to understand, and how they have purposely given us drugs and chemicals to stop us from being able to do that. But not anymore. We're all going to be healed up completely. This is the revelation the Lord gave me about being the spotless bride. You can't have a spotless bride if everybody is still sick and has disease. So the med beds will take care of all that. You won't have any infirmity. I mean, that's Revelation, end time. And God's tying all this back with Scripture. And I was just sharing with a good friend today how he is pulling in the Scripture, his word, to support everything he's showing me. It's like people in the beginning saying, "Dave, how come you don't, use more Scripture?" Oh my gosh. It's like, how could I use Scripture if I didn't know how it applied? Now I have full awareness of how it applies. So you'll see as I'm putting pieces of information out, and I'm really not going to be able to put out much more. He's locking it down. It's just for me to know now for later. Spotless bride. Couldn't have a spotless bride if there was evil in our system, because it would corrupt it. Did you ever think how do we achieve spotless bride? No, because it's not taught. It's one of those areas that they just don't go into because they don't know. Well, I know now. I understand it. And when you see it from his perspective, it makes total sense. Total sense. Because remember, he is spirit, and he also incarnated in the flesh as Yahusha. That's God, folks, in the flesh. Some of the little proofs. When he was baptized by John, when he came up out of the water, he was given the full measure of the Holy Spirit. The full measure. And fire. And as I was sharing with this person today, I said, imagine you're the Almighty, the creator of the universe, and you take physical form on this earth to be and commune and walk with your creation, because you have a covenant promise to fulfill. And you have to do what you said, because you're a keeper of your word. So he became the way. He pointed the way back to him. Parable of the prodigal son. He was the only acceptable sacrifice. It couldn't be anybody else. Why? Because he's the one that made the covenant promise. Think about that. That's not taught, because the church, and I say that from the Vatican point of view, they did everything they could to separate God in the spirit from God in the flesh. So we were confused. And for those people that are called Jews and have been brought up with a certain doctrine, rules and regulations, they say, well, wait a minute, Christians, you pray to Jesus. We pray to the Almighty. They don't get it. But see how they screwed us up? They deceived us. They lied to us. We don't pray to Yahusha. We pray to the Creator. Even him, as God in the flesh, said, don't pray to me. He told his disciples, don't pray to me. And they're like, well, how do we pray to the Father? And he taught them how to pray to the Father, our Father who art in heaven. So these are the little things that are like the sand in the jar. My friend Barry, I said, Barry, I bring the rocks and you bring the sand, all the peripheral stuff, and it just fills the jar, and it's just compact. It's solid. So we have the most accurate and truth-based message out there, and we don't hype anything. We don't mix stuff up. Why? Because they answer to the Father. These other people, they answer to man, so they can say whatever they want. They're already sold out. But SEC, what was SEC there to do? Global Military Witness Protection. Keep people away. How come the price didn't go up? Because it couldn't. It's based on transactions per second, and I worked through all the math, and I got the nod that was all correct from Brad. If we can only do 1,500 transactions, and Brad says, oh, by the way, we're gonna increase the transactions per second. What? Who said we could do that? He did. Never happened, though. It was a confirming word. But when we get onto the fifth dimension quantum system, the Lord already gave me the revelation and the math to rewrite Einstein's theory of relativity, E equals mc squared. That was for the third dimension world. I've written it, renewed it into the quantum realm. So whatever whatever is required within the QFS through XRP as the digital asset collateral, bringing security and guarantee for the transaction. That's what it does, folks. It's not a money man. It doesn't deal with cross-border payments. They say that because that's the code word for taking out evil. It removed evil because their system went bankrupt. No good. This is backed by 100% gold, which I just told you they have enough to last 650 years, processing 100 quadrillion transactions per second, 365 days a year. And I ran the math. I stress tested. I ran the model. I ran the algorithm. And we were fine. We're good until 2030. And then the value for XRP comes from the need for more liquidity, the quantum global liquidity reserve. And what is that? It's an amount based on math, quantum math, because quantum means how much do we need, so that every single transaction in the world is guaranteed. Now, when you throw in the fact that you have the gatekeeper AI as the security guard, making sure that nothing gets through. I mean, there are very defined roles here. XRP and the gatekeeper AI work hand in hand. It's the master key. You don't turn the system on and nothing functions without XRP. It doesn't work with XLM. It doesn't work with any other token. Those were the third dimension processes that are going to take care of us in that interim period while people are still figuring out how to work the technology. And by mid 2027, all the banks will be gone. We won't be using banks. You'll be working off your quantum debit card, your quantum phone, your quantum laptop. Everything will flow naturally. But in that new math, and that was supported by the 2022 Nobel Peace Prize winners, whatever needs to happen in terms of how many transactions need to be pushed through the XRPL, it already knows what that is, and it's already made the adjustments to handle it. It's kind of like where God says, I already know what you need before you ask. It's exactly what the system does, and it already knows everything about that. But see, we're going to have a lot of transactions that go through that are small dollar amounts in dollars, and then we're going to have larger transactions. But each one is a transaction, so it's not trying to collectively gather all the dollars to get to larger dollar transactions. No, it just takes it for what it is. Why? Because in the beginning, people are going to figure out how to spend their money. And when we talk about the amount of money coming in for ZIM bonds, currency exchanges, all the IRS income taxes, interest, mortgages, everything coming back into our hands, that raises GDP, folks. And by 2030, we're pushing GDP up 22.5% every 3.2 years. That's a lot of money moving. That's a lot of spending. But see, it's just changing. It's just going from one person to another, because there aren't stock markets to get it stolen in, to lose it, to benefit somebody else. See, all these systems that we're stepping into, and when I say this, I'll try to qualify what this means. We're not doing what we're going to be doing with a profit motive to grow it, okay? It will increase all by itself. If you're a humanitarian, you can't invest the money. That's where 99% of the money is going to be in terms of dollars. And if you're talking about someone with one qualifying ZIM bond getting $100 trillion, how many workers making $100,000 a year is that? See my point? Because if you try to do that, you'll be operating outside the bounds of the protocols, and you will be shut down, because that's not what it's about. It's about taking care of humanity. It's about the children. It's about, it's not, hey, I need to go stake this and I need to go try to double my money and do all this other stuff. No, that's why God's given us time to do that before everything kicks off. That's why I had, 30 years of trading gone in 2 weeks. God said, no, Dave, that's not part of the new system. And I had you experience it so you can share it with other people. But see, he created XRP. It's divine. It's divine. Okay? It wasn't a token. That's what they had to call it to hide it in the sandbox in that environment. But we have to give it back. That's why when we go to the redemption center, we're not redeeming it. It's actually being repatriated. That means we are giving it back to its original owner. And that's the Lord. It's to the system. Okay? That's why nobody can own it. So all this fluff talk about, such and such buying it and everything else. No, they're nefarious. They're not getting any of it. And if they had it at one point, it's already been clawed back. And I've said this before. I can't tell you how much Ripple actually has of XRP. I'm respecting what the Lord asked me to do. So I'm keeping that as privileged information. It does nobody any good to know how much they really have. But a lot of that was from clawbacks. And as we saw in the announcement, what does it say? Okay. The case was dismissed with prejudice. The remedies ordered by the court include the civil penalty of $125 million and the injunction against certain institutional sales of XRP shall remain in full force and effect. Let me translate that. It's all been clawed back. They're nefarious. They're not going to be participating in the system. So it all goes back to the original fiduciary, and that was Ripple. Millions and billions of XRP. And this is an interesting clause. Each party shall bear its own costs and attorney's fees. That's unheard of. Unheard of. And the clerk of the court is directed to close this case on 8/8/2025. It's over, people. It's over. Did Ripple go to $100 like the talking head said? No, it can't. The value of XRP doesn't drive what's going on. We have to return it. We're going to receive a reward for repatriating it, and we get to pick that price. So no one can say that they were forced. God said everybody has to be given free will. So should you decide to participate in the repatriation, the buyback, you're going to put in whatever price you want, and that's what you'll get because that's what's in your heart. Okay. Now, the price of XRP has gone up between 11 and 14%, but get this. I went back and looked at my chart. I went back 1 year, August 8th, 356 days. I'm sorry, 358 days. XRP up 575%. If I take it to today, that was the prior high, up 518%. That's nothing to the buyback maximum price of 1 million. But not everybody's going to be in the know, nor will they have the confidence, because they're not listening, to ask for $1 million per XRP. But see, with that comes great responsibility. We have to sign a stewardship document because it's going to be monitored so that we're good stewards of it. Okay. But again, we already knew, and what I had begun to report when I first got to Twitter was the clawbacks. Those that acquired XRP nefariously, right? Because it was originally nefarious, it would be clawed back. And there's nothing they can do about it. So none of these nefarious Wall Street companies own XRP. It's just a bunch of talk to make it look like that system is still alive, when in fact it's not. Okay? And I've been talking about that for over 4 years. But believe what you want to believe. Okay? God has put me into this position as the leading authority. I'm the social media expert by his hand with regards to the quantum financial system. XRP is the master key. Nasara Jasara, Gatekeeper AI, Sovereign Trust and Redemption, Kingdom-based valuation models, and prophetic encryption decoding in God's final ledger. That's a fact. And I don't say that to boast. Here's what's happened in the case. I went, and at one point I posted a timeline showing all of these events that were taking place in the lawsuit were all centered around a 1 month, 25-day time frame. So you can see, and it gives us a brief label for what was going on. The start date and the end date. Now, it looks like I shortened this up a little too much, but this was, you'll see, I got some more charts. 55, 55, 56. This was a double window. 56, 55, 55. And then the last two, going back to June, when he testified in the Senate testimony, exactly 31 days each. Woo! Wow. You can see there was a timeline. And this goes back and it shows those dates again. In the interval, this names the event timeline and what took place. So we have a ledger on all this stuff. More description with the showing the complete date. Summaries, briefs, remedies, court granting timeline adjustments. That was so funny. Back when they were messing around with the times they were going to meet, and the Lord showed me what their timing model was, and I would post it months ahead of time. The final unraveling. It all started on December 22nd, 2020. That was the day after the 7,885-year contract expired. So it could be done. See, we couldn't go into this system prior to that date, prior to this date, because prior to this date, everything was under the evil system. And it takes me back to 9/11 in 2001. We could not have started Nasara Jasara prior to this date. It would not have been allowed, and it wasn't allowed. And I'm going to just throw this out there. I was chatting with the Lord about this. If evil was trying to bring in this system on 9/11/2001, they were doing it for their nefarious system. So that was the other side. That was the Klaus Schwab side. The White Hats blew it up, so it couldn't happen. I was told that nobody died. They were taken away, protected as Space Lions. Now, I'm not talking about people that, ended up having something happen because they were in the rubble and the dust and things like that. And all the stuff that they destroyed. The narrative was that they destroyed it when the White Hats destroyed it, to give them the notion that they were actually going to succeed in bringing their, I can't remember what it's called anymore, the great awakening or whatever it was, their nefarious plan, because their plan was to destroy all of us, to kill us. Okay. But there has been a numbering system, and you can read this, and it talks about all of these interludes, these time frames fitting a pattern and it being confirmed. And it says, Judge Torres, August 8th, ruling did not simply fit the pattern. It confirmed it. This was not randomness, it was designed. And it says this 1 month, 25-day interval was again preserved, as if the case itself was being held in the palm of a greater hand, guided toward a known conclusion. There's no doubt. I've seen it all. And every day he still has me in a moment of awe. The legal gate lock is almost disengaged. This is what it means going forward. The lawsuit acted as a legal throttle holding back public scale XRP utility. And in the sense that I'm talking about it being quantum, utility means use. It's already operating, right? It's already operating in the divine. That's the private ledger. Quantum speed, unlimited transactions per second. All it's waiting for us is the precise development moment. So the lock, the announcement, is partially lifted now, but it's not driving the price, okay? And while I'm talking on price, let me get something from my throat real quick. I'll be right back. I want to talk about two things real quick. Number one, people that have been duped, scammed, and had their XRP stolen. I've said many times, trust in the Lord. He's a keeper of his promise, and that's been confirmed. There is a return process. Now, I don't want to say too much because you're supposed to be, and promise me you will be. Okay, I just told you what you're getting for Christmas. So when you open up the gift, look surprised. Okay, look surprised. So it's being addressed through the clawbacks. So the nefarious people that had to give it up, that's all accounted for by the gatekeeper AI, so that you get credit for it back. He's returning what was stolen. And that's all I want to say about it. Okay? Isn't that awesome? Man, you should be jumping up and down. You should be shouting and just giving him all the praise and thanksgiving for having already done that, because you thought it was gone. It was a test, people. It was to see what you were going to do after the fact. Were you going to play woe is me? Were you going to give him praise and thanksgiving in all situations? Because that's what it says to do. And by doing so, it's given back. It's returned. Whew, yowza. But you've got to be in alignment. You've got to be one of those people that went through the 8-year scan and you got the green light. You're going right into the redemption center. A lot of people don't know it, but they already got a red light, and there's no way to fix it. Okay. Now let me back up for a second. There is one protocol, and it's being monitored. The only way to have any consideration of coming in, if you've already been scanned and didn't make it, is to publicly renounce what you've done publicly with witnesses, with a truthful heart of repentance. And if you can do that and satisfy the gatekeeper AI, you have a chance. But you have to sincerely in your heart come forward and tell the world what you did and how sorry you are and why you did it and why it was wrong and why you've changed your ways and why you're repentive. So if you've been leading people astray with a false narrative and you weren't one of those people that was required to do it, you just did it because you got paid money to lead people down the wrong path, there's still a crack in the door if you want to join us, if you want to be with all of us, but you have to give it up. And I hope you do. I hope you're going to be with us in the end. Okay. So we're going to see the protocol synchronization phase. That's the last phase. So Ripple's legal status is being synced with international settlement law under Basel IV. Now they've kind of told a bit of a misnomer on that. Okay. Basel IV is being called like the Basel III modified. I can't remember the exact terminology. I posted it, but it all went into effect in July. And why? What is that all about? All the banks were pulled under our new U.S. Treasury Department. There isn't a bank out there that's privately owned. They're all owned by the U.S. Treasury Department. And those banks that were absorbed into the U.S. Treasury Department had to meet strict qualifications. Well, we know that for a certain amount of time, 6 months to 18 months, maybe a little bit longer, but we don't have that much time left, before banks are no longer needed, the banks have to guarantee all of the capital that someone transfers from their quantum access account into a bank or a credit union. They have to have the physical assets to back it. Right now, there's only one that has already been approved. It's already on the XRPL, and the timing was perfect to get it into the final ledger before it closed on on June 30th. And that was Ripple's RLUSD. The RLUSD took the place of the collateral because the banking system wasn't a situation where you deposited your money and it was yours. You deposited your money, and by doing so, you lent it to the bank. That's why it could go out and hypothecate it up to 100 times and turn around and loan it out for various loans, auto loans, mortgage loans. What are some of the other ones? Lines of credit, home equity. They can't do that anymore because that's not what it's for. It's to keep that money safe until a person wakes up and says, wait a minute, honey, why are we putting money over in Wells Fargo? I use my quantum debit card all day long. And if I need some pocket money, I go to the ATM machine and I get the rainbow currency. We don't need that money sitting in the bank. I'm going to move it back up into our quantum access accounts. So the Gatekeeper AI automatically manages the need for what we're calling the Ripple stablecoin, which really is the global stablecoin, to fill that need. The Asian elders bought all of the global banks, and they already own Bank of America. So again, it's just a stopgap measure. That's why the plan is when they deem the banks no longer fiscally necessary, the humanitarians will be able to buy those buildings. And the hope is that they will continue to offer financial assistance with loans and things like that. So the simple fact that they're absorbed into the U.S. Treasury tells you they're not in the money-making business anymore. But the RLUSD, now we have to add a G on the end of it because it's gold-backed. It's 100% gold-backed in order to do what it does. So that way, if grandma moves $50,000 from her quantum access account into a Wells Fargo checking account so she can write checks to pay her bills for a short period of time, they have enough reserves in the RLUSDG to meet the Basel IV requirement. And it's not going to be phased in over time. It's 100% now. Otherwise, why would I ever put $1 into a bank if I don't have the same 100% gold backing that I have in my quantum access account? Because I can move money in an instant. See my point? But people they're buying into this old narrative because they're still in that I got to make money mode because they haven't qualified for their quantum access account. But there's so much money, people. So much money. I mean, if we're talking about, Trump got back all of our Sesticate trusts from the Vatican. That was holding the paper. If you're 60 years old, it's like minimum $16 billion. It drops off drastically as you get younger, but a 30-year-old, I've done the math and I've put it out there, they still have like $2 billion. Well, you're not just going to go out and blow all that money, right? I wrote a paper when I first heard about the NESARA component from the former House Ways and Means Committee Chairman, Dan Rostenkowski. And I did the math. I wrote a white paper on it. But see, once you have your house, once you have your car paid off, your house is paid off, you need very little when you think about it. Our electricity will be free. So you're talking like $3,000 to $5,000 a month. That's it. That's your nut. Now, of course, you're going to be doing a lot of traveling, a lot of vacationing, a lot of praise and worship. You're going to be hanging out with great people, giving the Lord praise and thanksgiving, helping humanity. How much more do you need? Because the people that go out and blow the money on fancy cars and all this other stuff, it doesn't fill the hole. But see, most of those people won't be around. I'm just excited about having a quantum computer because there's some stuff I'm seeing out there happening right now. I'm just doing backflips. I'm like, this is awesome. And it's already here. It's already here. They're saying the EBS is going to get triggered once 90% of those committed to the program are in. It's like less than 30 days away, maximum. And don't worry about all these talking heads talking about all these, you're going to have 4 days to do this. And, no. No one's going to be taken advantage of. There's going to be plenty of time for everybody. That's just part of their psyop. It's not how God is orchestrating everything. No, a lot of people won't be going necessarily to the redemption center to redeem or exchange. So that shortens up how much time. But they're going to make sure that the humanitarians, and they already know who you are. That was all taken care of during the scan. See, that's why it was so important to get that Humanitarian Initiative Trust template completed because it came through on your scan. Oh, they're humanitarian. Okay. They know all your numbers. They know how to reach you, everything. They even know how much you have in ZIM and everything else. So don't worry about it. God's providing the maximum rate for the great stewards. Okay. So what did the SEC do? The SEC effectively fulfilled its role as a stall mechanism. And Gary Gensler stepped up to be the one to take the heat. And I started 8 months ago writing a book about that. So if you've been trashing him because you went and watched that stupid movie and you picked up offense, get on the floor and start repenting immediately. Publicly repent. You got duped. You got duped. So from here forward, the primary control lever is timing of public disclosure, not legal entanglement. Okay? This is all part of what God is having me do right now. This is part of the public disclosure that nobody else has. Nobody else is talking about. Why? Because they don't know. And like I said before, I'm just hitting just the top of the mountain peak. There's so much, but it's so cool. So expect a rapid pivot from the courtroom updates to technical activation updates, Ripple announcements, QFS protocol milestones, etc. Okay. XRP, the public will shift from corporate Ripple to sovereign QFS governance. This is the part. This is it right here. The final transfer of custodianship. Okay. Aligning with what I've said before, no one owns XRP. XRP, it is the master key. Ripple becomes more of a service provider and gateway manager under QFS oversight. But here's the other part that I wanted to talk about. This is the last time I can talk about this. So don't ask me any questions. It's all going to be covered here. I've briefly touched upon this before. If you didn't hear it, didn't pick it up, it didn't make sense, I'm going to break it down. If you are a trader and you're trading on a platform, anything that you are, let me back up. Anything that you are trading in, Ethereum, Bitcoin, XRP, SOL, Hedera, XLM, there is hidden in the trader's agreement clauses that say this. When you open up a trading account, especially if it has leverage, right? We see some of these traders like Crypto, where he's leveraged 17 to 40%, 40 times. He doesn't get that privilege. Traders do not get that privilege and still hold their digital assets. And this was my analogy last time. Think of Las Vegas. Do they want you betting your own money? No. They want you to go to the cage, hand them your cash, and they're going to hand you chips. And they want you to use those chips. Why? Because if anything goes wrong, they have your money. If you die of a heart attack and you leave, all you have is chips. You may never come back. So they take your money, they take your assets, your digital assets, and those are what are pledged for the equity in the trading power, right? Trading power, marginalized leverage trading power that you are given to trade with. So that's why so many of these people in Bitcoin and even in XRP, they get taken out with a strong enough move. See, if you don't understand that a 1 or 2% move against you when you're leveraged like that will wipe out your trading account for that amount of money or more. I experienced that in the futures world. You think you're doing fine, and all of a sudden it just starts dropping like a rock. Well, if you're the Federal Reserve and the working group, you have unlimited capital. It doesn't affect you. But if you're just a person coming in to trade for the day, so to speak, where you're always getting back to cash, you can get annihilated. You can blow your whole account up. But here's what I want you to know. When that EBS alert goes off, if you still hold a trading account, they still hold your digital assets. You will not own, nor will you get back those digital assets. And I want you to think really hard on that. You will lose it all the moment that EBS alert goes off. And that could be this week, it could be next week, it could be 2 weeks from now. It's gone, people. The only way to escape that is to stop trading, close out your trading account, because you have to close the trading agreement and you have to wire those funds, because you could have some cash and then you could also have some digital assets. If you have digital assets, you have to get them back onto the XRPL. Now see, the digital assets never leave the XRPL. It's like a big black box I told you with filing cabinets in it. You had a folder that had your name on it with everything that you paid for. If it's over at Uphold, they still own it because without telling us, they consolidated all of the individual segregated accounts and dumped them into their master account so they could go stake the money. They're in big trouble for that. Big trouble. So they were making billions of dollars a quarter using our digital assets because we were hodling, we were holding, but we were only holding to the extent that they gave us a destination code so we knew where it was in their, or they knew where it was in their folder. But see, that's they did exactly what Wall Street does. They allow other firms to borrow your equity, and then the firms that have your account, they get paid margin interest to loan it out. We never got paid a penny, but that's where all the platforms, Coinbase, Uphold, Binance, they all got paid to take our digital assets and loan them out for the traders. So it all comes back to the traders or to stake. So it'll be gone, folks. So if you're trading, Bitcoin, or you're trading XRP, and you think you're safe, you're not. You're walking on a razor's edge, and at this point, just expect to lose it. If you haven't shut down that trading agreement, you have to close the account. Okay, you have to close your trading account and move your assets out. If it's cash, wire it to your bank. If it's digital assets, send it over to the ledger, the XRP ledger, back into your own. I hate to use the word wallet. Your own file folder. Okay, but I'm not gonna talk about that anymore. You're on your own on that. Oh, let's see if we have anything else. Yes. What are we likely to see short term, 0 to 90 days? And these timelines are way excessive. Court millstones, final remedies, structured settlement agreements, Basel IV implementation, RLUSD, pilots expand quietly, gold-backed compliance, operational quiet period. When we say partner banks, they're not partner banks in the sense that they're doing deals with Ripple. Every single bank that will operate, that's operating now under the authority of the U.S. Treasury, because that's who owns them, in order to function on the XRPL for QFS, you have to agree to the system. You're not agreeing to turn on XRP or acquire it or decide, oh, that will work for me. No, that's the open market mirage narrative. No, you don't get onto the system unless there's nothing else to use, folks. So that's why they all had to be pulled under the U.S. Treasury Department. There's no choice. That's why a lot of banks were consolidated. They were closed because they couldn't meet the requirements. And it's only because of how they set up RLUSD to operate that makes it all work. It's the only approved asset. Nobody else made it in. No Circle, no Tether, nothing. Because we don't need it. RLUSD right there. Public green zone signals. See, we've already had a lot of these things happen already. We've already had Starlink and the XRPL shake hands. It's operational. Quiet technical handover where real world transaction traffic starts routing through the QFS rails, through the divine system. Controlled early access. Select humanitarian, sovereign, and institutional accounts. Okay? That when we say institutional accounts, it just means that there's activity going through one of the Treasury Reserve or one of the foreign banks that the Asian elders acquired that's running large amounts of money for the QFS through it already for humanitarian or sovereign means. I mean, this thing is so dialed in. Like I said, it's an AI. We only call it AI because we're talking about the heavenly realm. You know, they want to call it alien technology. Well, it's not alien. It's only alien if you don't have a relationship with the Lord. It's heavenly. It's divine. 4-door. So now they'll just finish up with the full Ripple case closure for public knowledge, the global QFS turnover, the final fiat sunset. It's bye-bye. It's gone. The Federal Reserve, actually it's the Federal Board Agency. It's no longer the Federal Reserve. It's a Federal Board Agency for compliance. They have to buy back. They have a window of time, which is about 12 months, to buy back all of the fiat dollars that are out in the system. The public gold standard, and when we say gold standard, we need to understand it's not the gold standard we had under the old system. Okay, the gold standard under the old system was a faith and credit based standard. This gold standard is really what I call the 100% gold asset backed currency standard. Currency standard. Okay. The currency standard requires the backing of the gold with gold or other assets. Other assets that are already quantumized. They're not tokenized. That's the old system. They're quantumized because the new system is quantum. So we can't call it truly a gold standard. It's a quantumized gold asset backed currency standard. And we should use the correct terminology. And we will as soon as this quote goes official. But it's all mirrored in other US Treasury notes, which is the unified sovereign Treasury notes. Remember I said a dollar in the US is a dollar in Hong Kong? Well, the US Treasury note is not United States. It's the sovereign aspect, the united, the unity aspect. So that becomes we're not going to use the word reserve, okay? Because there is no other. There'll be one global currency, US Treasury note, US Treasury dollar. Dollar's a dollar. Because we'll keep all these other countries from getting in trouble by having their currency named after their country. We're a global union right now. So that's really how it needs to be addressed. So 8/8/25 ruling, it's not the end, it's the unlock signal for operational countdown. That's what we're in right now. So we just finished the first 7 days of the first week of the 49 days, which is 7 weeks, which is Jubilee. Ties back to Genesis. So in the final precision timing phase before the QFS makes its undeniable entrance. And there's actually a protocol for Trump when he announces that. So I think that's it. Yep, that's it, folks. So I hope you found this to be educational for you. Go back and watch it again. Lean into the Father. Thank you so much for your dedication and your kind words and your thoughts and your prayers. Thank you for believing in the Father. Thank you for believing in me. This has been a tremendous task of responsibility, of humbling, of putting humanity before myself. Not only myself, but my needs and my wants and the things that I look forward to. And don't ever forget, he's just waiting for you to come back into his arms and receive his unending love. Have a great rest of your weekend, and God bless. Take care.